Hello and welcome to the Walk Off, everybody. I'm Scott Belford. Very excited for today's episode, which is a bit of a prospect exclusive. And before we introduce today's guest, please hit that subscribe button on the channel. Goes a long way. The thumbs up, the like button also is great. Now, let's dive in here. Very excited to have returning to the show outfielder for the Toronto Blue Jays organization, finishing the 2024 season with the AAA Buffalo Bison, Alan Roden. Welcome back to the show, man.
Thanks, Scott. I appreciate it. Gonna be fun.
Yeah, buddy. Yeah, absolutely. Big congrats, by the way, on your finish to the 2024 season. I know getting the call up to Buffalo there struggled a little out of the gate, but man, what a finish. Congrats.
Yeah, thank you. Absolutely. I mean, there's always an adjustment period getting called up, and luckily I took a pretty big adjustment, but figured it out and was able to finish pretty strong.
Have you been through that before? Like when you got called up to Vancouver and got called up to New Hampshire, did you have the same sort of adjustment period, or was this really the first time where you had to dig in?
So, going from starting 2023 in Vancouver, it wasn't really as big of an adjustment, and then even the jump to from high A to double A, maybe slightly, but not nearly as much as Buffalo. I would say that the real one that I would compare it to is getting drafted. So from college to
Right.
low A in Dunedin. I remember that being, like a month, a little over a month of um, some baseball that was, tough for me and had to figure some things out. So that's what I would really compare it to. But it's one of those things that sometimes when you get called up and you really want to do so well, um but then you also you pair that with just getting a natural slump or low part of the season, and so I think that's really what it was, and got through it and learned some things, and took off, I guess.
What would you say your biggest takeaway was from last year?
I think just how to handle at bats, and how to handle some weaknesses that I had that pitchers in AAA were kind of exposing a little bit more, and making me honing in on the things that I do well. Those are things that were huge takeaways that were kind of more on the mental side of hitting as opposed to just, the physical side. So
Hmm.
learning those things was really important and allowed me to have more success for sure.
This is your third spring training, correct?
That's correct. This will be my
That
third.
is, yeah. Do you feel more comfortable? Number one,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, because I can imagine when you first went in there in 2023, I know just whenever I would start a new job or whatever, I'd be all anxious and nervous. Was it the same sort of idea?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, the first spring training is always a crazy one. I mean, the whole thing is madness. So many people running around, and everybody trying to figure out what they got to do, where they need to be, who they need to talk to. Um, so that was definitely crazy. And then last year, uh, got to experience Major League Camp, and that was my first Major League Camp,
Yeah.
obviously. And that has its own kind of quirks to it, and things to it that are a little bit different than minor league camp. And so, your comment about, are you maybe a little bit more comfortable? I would say certainly. I mean, like, comfortable knowing what I'm getting into and what I'll have to deal with for the next few months, and or I guess I would say a couple months. And so, kind of going into it with a little bit of experience helps in knowing how to prepare for it, how to, physically and mentally. And then, just obviously comfortability once you're actually there. I think it'll be a little bit easier in that way as well.
Can you give us a little kind of behind the scenes of spring training? Like, just take us through day one of guys showing up. Like, because you're doing a camp right now, but you're not in Dunedin, correct?
In Dunedin.
You
Yeah.
are in Dunedin right
So
now.
I
Yeah.
absolutely can.
Yeah.
That's correct. Yeah. Yep. Yeah, we're just running through some camps. Most professional team and most MLB teams do it. They bring guys down a little bit a little bit early, and it's just part of the process of player development. But I mean, the first day of spring training is it's crazy, right? So you have, you're seeing everybody, right? I guess you could call, we're seeing a bunch of guys now, but it's even more once real spring training starts. And so you're seeing all these guys, you're having all these different conversations. Obviously, you have the natural questions like, how's your off season? Man,
Yeah.
you're looking good. We hear this stuff. It actually happens 100%. It's like, oh man, you're looking great, looking strong. And so you have all those sorts of conversations. You're seeing faces that you haven't seen for a little while. And especially if you hadn't, played with them during the season last year. So it
Right.
had been literally since last spring training, a full year ago. And then you're seeing coaches that, you can be good buddies with, and you're talking with them about the season. And but then while all that's happening, you're trying to focus on, the first day of practice, which is, they typically have easy into it a little bit, but you're still trying to show that you worked on stuff during the off season. And so it's a really, and all of this is, there are so many people. It's hectic. And so it's a zoo, and there was actually a small conversation about this today, and it's got to be one of the more unique things in professional sports. Because I don't know if there are this amount of people uh in one area for have to do with one team ever in any other sport.
No,
So
for
spring training is a
sure.
very unique thing in that way. And yeah, yeah. So it's a unique experience.
I'm guessing that once pitchers and catchers come in, it becomes more regimented. Right now, is it more kind of like individual um, development and progress you're looking for, or like when does the real swing of things get into it here?
Right. So yeah, right now there are a couple different things going on. And so you're right. Everybody's doing a little bit different stuff. But once the real full swing starts in March. So right. So a little bit, so minor league camp starts a little bit after major league camp. Major league camp starts as like for full squad practice on the 18th, 17th or 18th, something like that. And so um yeah, I mean, so everybody's kind of gearing up right now, and in a couple of weeks you'll have everybody around, and it'll be even more hectic than it is now. And today I was looking around, I was like, wow, this is hectic.
So this is a weird question because I sort of know the answer, but I'm more curious on how you approach it. Uh, you don't pay attention to the prospect rankings, I'm guessing. Or is there a competitive side to you that does kind of take a peek at it? Like, how do you, when prospect rankings come out, I know everyone gets all excited, but in the end, it really is almost irrelevant. It's just like, how is your season going to go? So, how do you kind of like let that, like, do you let it validate you a little bit, or do you just try to ignore it completely?
So this might be a boring answer, but I don't look at it at all. It carries zero stock with me whatsoever.
Yeah.
I've never once had a conversation about my prospect ranking or have heard that matter at all.
Yeah.
Obviously there's the business side to it where conversations like that could be had, but they're never had with the player themselves. And at the end of the day, they don't look at the end of the season, they don't look at your prospect rank midway and then, okay, yeah, well, he probably had a good year. And then they look at they look at your stats, and that's what matters.
Yeah.
And so preparing without knowing what prospect ranking is yeah, that's how I do it. And I would assume most guys too.
So, how much organizational news do you let into your world then? Because I can imagine that it's difficult at times to completely ignore it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I can't speak for everybody, but for myself, I like to know. I definitely pay attention, and certainly don't play GM because that's
Yeah.
what would you wish for. But um, I like to be in the know and knowing my situation, because I want to be realistic about my expectations and be prepared for knowing if certain things can happen. And you can kind of you can project out a little bit and maybe play the GM a little bit, but see like what would I do or what does this mean if I was and so I'll do that a little bit. I wouldn't say more than the normal. I think probably
Yeah.
a pretty normal amount. I think it would that a little bit. But I do like to pay attention and I think you'd be doing yourself a disservice if you didn't pay attention at all. I think that's an important part of being a player and knowing what could come in the future.
So let's take the trade deadline, for example, when all of the expiring contracts on the Jays were moved out and an influx of prospects came in. Uh, what is it like as a player watching that happen? And you know what? We can even get into the other side too, because I mean, at the end of the year in 2024, there were a couple guys you played with that wound up being put on waivers and other organizations picked them up. And obviously, it's a
Yeah.
business. I know you know it's a business, but I'm sure. I mean, that's just lip service. It doesn't make it any easier. What's the feeling when guys are coming in or guys are leaving the organization?
Uh, we're all set. I have Yeah, I think really, really interesting question. And it's I think pretty cool perspective on that. So in 23, the Jays were competitive and they were making a playoff push. And there were talks of they were going to go out and get some players and they traded for Jordan Hicks,
Hmm.
right? And a bunch of other in that along those lines. And so it was kind of like, well, all right, like it could be anybody at any moment, which is it's just a really strange thing to think about because you're kind of like in okay, you're in limbo. You're not actually in limbo, but you're like creating this world where you are in limbo. So it's a strange mindset in that way. And then last year, obviously, things didn't work out the way we wanted. We were, selling contracts
Yeah.
away and we were bringing guys in. And so I've kind of had two different seasons with the exact opposite trade deadline experience as a minor leaguer. And so, um, and last year it's like, okay, who are we bringing in? Who are we going to trade away? Who's going to come in? And I think it's interesting that when making in that situation trying to take stock into who we get back as an indicator of your value to the team makes no sense because
Yeah.
if if I was running the show, I would be trying to get as many good players as possible, regardless of what players I already have or how I feel about them.
Hmm.
And so playing that game of like, oh, they traded for a couple outfielders, or that's just for my example.
Yeah.
Um, that really doesn't impact me because I mean, I'll say it over and over. The only thing that really matters is how I do with myself, and I do believe that I control my own future, my destiny, but it's true. So that was my take on that deadline situation last year. So I've had a couple different experiences at the deadline. It's definitely an interesting experience.
I can imagine. I can imagine. And you do need to just focus on yourself. That is the answer, obviously. And you did that well last
Yeah.
year. Obviously, power is not the be all and end all, but my goodness, what a valuable little tool to have in your toolbox. And you definitely showed an increase in it in 2024. Not that you weren't hitting the odd home run before, but frequency definitely went up last year. Was this by design, Alan? Like, was this something that you were trying to do, was increase your power? And how did you go about doing that?
Yeah, I think So power, you can talk about power in so many different ways. Most people think about it in home runs. Um, the way the Blue Jays like to talk about power is damage. And so damage can include just extra base hits in general. So
Mhm.
doubles, triples, obviously. Um, those that's what we would include into damage. And so for me, I was having some success hitting some doubles in Vancouver, and a big part of hitting more damage is in slugging a little bit higher is turning those doubles into home runs. And really, the bottom line there is refining the swing to have your contact quality be in the air more, and especially for me, more pull side. And
Mhm.
so, making some small changes to get cleaner ball flight to the pull side in the air is exactly what I focused on and was able to do a little bit more with a little bit more success this past season than the previous seasons. Obviously, that's still a goal for me in this upcoming season is to even refine that even more and do it as much as possible,
Yeah.
obviously. And So to answer your question, instead of dancing around it, yes, it was for sure something I focused on and wanted to do more of. But I guess maybe reframing the question around how we view power in as a organization.
So talking tweaking then, or just even just hitting day to day, and I don't want you to take this question as a question about some soul sucking slump. That's not what I'm talking about here. I just mean when you show up to the game and you're maybe not feeling it, you hop into the batter's box and just for whatever reason something's off. What's your
Mhm.
process in that? Because I know it's funny when you talk to pitchers because they'll always say things like, "Sometimes my worst bullpens, it doesn't even matter, and I got to get out of my head and just get in the game because sometimes once I'm in the game, it doesn't matter how off I felt in the bullpen." Is there a similar thing like that with hitting? And what do you do when you're like, "Oh no, I'm not feeling it"? Is there a process, or is it just fighting through that thought?
Yeah, excellent question into the kind of the mind of a professional baseball player that's got to strap it on every day. And I think you'll get different answers from different guys. Some guys really rely on that, confidence factor and feeling good and um, knowing they're the guy, and that's part of how they play. For me, it's, bordering on the worse my BP is, the better I play. So, and that's part of it. It's like hitting is luck. And
Yeah.
so I
Don't
could
use
be
your
I could
luck up
have
in practice. Yeah.
exactly. Don't use it up in practice. And the pitcher makes a bad pitch and I just happen to swing where he threw it. Um, and I think that plays into just kind of how you deal with success or failure. At the end of the day, it's like, well, shoot, I didn't do anything. I just got lucky. And I wouldn't say that's how I completely think about playing and hitting, but um, definitely a little bit. And so it's like, yeah, I think when you're not feeling good, you have to just know that you can still go out there and play and compete and just, you're not feeling great, but you still got to go out there and try. And so that's kind of what you try to do.
So one thing that impressed me about your game last year that I didn't really know was that you're pretty competent at stealing bases. I'm not saying that speed is your number one tool or anything like that, or it's something that everyone is clamoring to get Alan Roden on the base path more, running more. But I was
Mhm.
like, this is a guy he could do 20 and 20, right? Like it's not that crazy of a thought. So when you're in a situation and you're looking to take another 90 feet, what are you looking for there? Like, is it more of like a crime of opportunity? Like the pitcher's maybe not giving enough attention to you, or is it like the manager's like, we need a base here, Alan, or like how does that play out? Because I know that there's guys who have green lights, like there's the Cam Edens of the world where you're just like, okay, well, he's gonna steal a base, so let him go. You're not really that guy, but what is your mentality when you're in that situation?
Yeah, definitely. As you said, I'm not Cam Eden or Serge Baroa
Yeah.
who have the green light and they can go whenever they want, and it's on them. Or I'm not even the guy that it's like, hey, we need 90 feet right here late in the game. It's like maybe if I have it perfectly, that could be me, but it's not all the time. And so checking off the boxes where it's like, the pitcher's home to, or like home to first. That's coming to my brain, but it's like their time, how long it takes them
Yes.
to go to the plate. If it's within a certain range, I can go. If I feel like I have a good feel for his like rhythm, I'll go. And one of the things that I strive to do and did well last year, I think I should have ran more last year than I did. That's a whole nother conversation, but it's be efficient and not get thrown out.
Hmm.
So I want to be able to get as many as possible, but I don't want to detract from, the team success because I'm trying to steal too many bases. I don't think that's a player I need to be or want to be. And so just kind of balancing that, making sure the situation is right. Obviously, um, you know, you can get a lot of cheap stolen bases in minor leagues just because the game's 9-2 and it's the bottom of the eighth and nobody's looking at you and you
Yeah.
just go. Um, I and there are things like that would never happen in the big leagues. And so um um thinking about situation baseball as a game, it's as a whole, wholesome game in that way as well.
So I know you're aware I'm a comedian. That's how I make my living, and dwelling on a bad set or a bad show is a horrible use of my energy. And I don't mean that I obviously don't take it as a lesson and take in the information that's given, but there's a difference between trying new jokes and them not working and being like, okay, well, that's something I got to work on, and trying the tried, true, tested, and for whatever reason, you're just off, right? And I know baseball is similar because it's all about development and it's about moving yourself forward, and dwelling on mistakes is really going to eat you up. But I am curious if you've ever had a mistake that you don't dwell on it, but to this day still sticks in your mind to like, oh man, I can't believe that happened, and I'm going to make sure that never happens again.
Scott, I have the perfect one for that.
Okay.
So, and it happened way too recently, meaning last year in AAA.
Okay.
So, all right, we're we're kind of in a dogfight of a game. I'm pretty sure we're playing Scranton, so the Yankees AAA. I don't can't remember exactly who we were playing. I'm pretty sure it's Scranton, but we go to extra innings, and all right, okay, so I'm in right field. I'm trotting out for the 10th inning. I'm like, oh, just letting you in on Alan Roden like mental state in that situation. I'm obviously cooked, tired. It's been a long day. I don't want to go home, but it's like let's win this game. And so um obviously guy starts on second base. There's a shot down into the corner, like a fly ball, hard hit fly ball. I run and race. I get it. And I'm feeling great. I catch it. I made a good play and I keep running. I'm jogging with it. I'm slowing down right in front of the wall. And I turn around to throw it and people are yelling at me, throw the ball, throw the ball. The guy tags from second. They score.
Oh no.
Yeah, not good. Not good. And so I'm like, I'm in disbelief. I'm like, I can't believe I just did that. That was the worst mistake of my entire baseball career. Okay. So we get through the inning. I'm feeling horrible. I mean, I'm the longest run of my life from right field into the third base dugout.
Oh man.
And I'm like, I think I'm due up. I think I'm due up third or fourth. And so I'm like, okay, I gotta focus up this F at right here. I have to do something. Luckily, Max McDowell hits a 2-run homer, walk off, saves my butt while I'm on deck. So not only did I get my butt saved, but I didn't even have to show my face into the game again. But
Oh
Yeah, not
man.
good. So that I don't dwell on it, but not good, Scott. Not good.
That is really funny. I can imagine too, because like I I love Casey Kendall so much. Like he's a guy that like I learned pretty quick, just a sweetheart to talk to after a win. Beautiful human. But like
Hmm.
if you've got to really dig into a loss with him, not not the friendliest guy, right? And I can just imagine even that run in from right field, you're like, "Oh no."
Ah, I mean, it was absolutely, but it just goes so much further beyond that just interaction or,
Right.
expectation of a response from manager. It goes like 10 layers further than that. You're like, I pride myself, you go so deep into, focus in all this different stuff. So definitely won't let that happen again.
Yeah. And that's what
Yeah.
development is, right? And honestly, it is making mistakes and realizing what to not do anymore.
Yeah, I wish I wouldn't have taken that to happen to learn that, but
Hey, some of
it's
us
all
have
right.
to take the hard road, my friend. Um, have you been recognized in Buffalo yet? Has anyone come up to you on the street and been like, "Hey, you're a bison"? We are
I
going to get
can't.
through this, man. We are going to.
Sorry.
Thanks for joining again. Have you been recognized in Buffalo yet?
Oh no, 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 no.
Yeah.
I have not. I hope I personally I hope never happens.
You're, that is so funny. It is.
Yeah.
I feel like AAA baseball players like the perfect anonymous, like you're still in the public's eye, but like you can go about your business and just live your life.
Yeah. I would like to go to a coffee shop or something and just be able to do what I want to do, but I understand that's part of it. And if it does happen, I hope I handle it the right way.
Um, what was the experience like moving between affiliates last year mid-season? Like just from a life perspective, I can imagine that it added a wrinkle to things that maybe didn't need a wrinkle.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what there is in the world with baseball gods and getting called up, but my family showed up to New Hampshire and like the night I got called up. So they watched one game in New Hampshire and I got a call later that day is you're going to Buffalo. So then I'm like, okay, back on the phone. So I called my parents and my sister who was there. Like, well, I have to go to Buffalo tomorrow. Can
Help
you
me
please drive
move.
my car? Yeah. Please make the 8 hour drive so I have my car with me. Um, so I guess in that way it was extremely lucky because then I have a car, could drive around places as opposed to not having a car and not being able to drive around places. But other than that, and making my family drive a little bit more than they would have liked, it was pretty seamless. We were home for New Hampshire, so I was able to pack up my apartment, get all my stuff together, put it in my car, and it was all good. But yeah, there's something about getting called up when you have somebody in town for you. And I guess it just is more of like most of the time you kind of people in town when you're, at home and at a time where you're usually going to get called up, but still.
Yeah. Yeah. Did you enjoy the
Mhm.
last half of the summer in Buffalo? Did you like it as a city?
I did. I did. I mean, I think Buffalo's a cool city. Some really good spots where I stayed, which was Elmwood Village. Really,
Okay.
really nice area. Some good restaurants and nice little area. So yeah, I mean I liked it. Obviously the stadium is super, super nice and um, got to explore a little bit in shoot Orchard Park on some off days. So
Yeah.
cool area for sure.
I can
Yeah.
imagine it's a little more happening than Manchester was in New Hampshire.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. Not quite Vancouver. which we talked about last
Yeah.
year, but still cool. Yeah.
Alan, I always appreciate your time, my man. Honestly, I could talk baseball with you all day long. I won't do that though. I do have one more question for you if you have the time for it here. I know you're not setting any like numerical goals for 2025. I need to hit this as a batting average or this as my OPS, but just out of curiosity, like what were some of your developmental goals going into this new season?
It's really continuing on the this might be sound vague but it seems very specific to me when I think about it. But it's the continuing on the developmental arc that I've been on the past couple of years. So obviously going from college to the pro game, made some stance changes, swing changes in general. You know, stood up really tall in my hands, super high, and did some weird things there. And then last year, lowered them, made a couple different changes again. And this offseason, it's really just been about, okay, we like where we're at for the most part mechanically. Obviously, that's a pretty fluid conversation, but we like where we're at. Let's refine it and let's just get really good at this move. And so continuing on that track and feeling really good about doing that is the developmental goal for this year. Again, there's absolutely it might sound zero amount of specifics to you there, but for me, it's very clear what that means.
Yeah.
You know, the terminology would be, you know, getting to my slot and just turning as best as possible. So um, that's the language that we would use and the one that I would use. And it's really a feel thing. That's something that I feel through and have conversations about with coaches, um, which keeps us on track. But that's kind of where I'm at. And it should theoretically show up in um, more success whole side in the air.
Well, we're rooting
That's
for
what
you
it
here,
should show up.
man. And I really do hope that the next time that we chat, you're donning a Blue Jays uniform, man.
I appreciate that. Thank you, Scott.